Welcome to Bobby Does Recaps. This is Landman Season 1. The show kicks off with Tommy in a real bind, hooded and zip-tied in a sweltering cartel hut. But he's not begging. He's closing a deal. MTEX owns the mineral rights under their land, so he's offering a surface lease to drill without messing with their underground drugs. He lays out the plan. Oil rakes in billions a day, and they can coexist. The boss, Jamez, buys it, signs off, and Tommy walks free, cracking beers in his truck while monologuing that leases are easy. It's the fallout that'll kill you. Fast forward 6 months later, that fallout explodes when a stolen MTEX plane mid-drug drop gets plowed by a rival tanker, turning the road into a fireball. Meanwhile, Tommy's son Cooper starts roughnecking with Luis, Armando, and Elvio, a tight crew who starts out hazing him hard, ditching his fancy latte and praying him on a ladder, nearly breaking his hand. More on Cooper later. Tommy races to the crash, smoozing Sheriff Walt to backdate reports and slap together a detour. Oil can't stop for Rex. On his way home, ex-wife Angela calls about their daughter Ainsley, who's on her way to stay with Tommy, and she's bringing her boyfriend Dakota. Later that night at the football game, Tommy's obviously not happy about boyfriend Dakota, eyeing their PDA at the game like a hawk, and he grills Ainsley on safe sex, but lets it slide for now. That night, Ainsley sneaks into Dakota's bed under Tommy's roof, but Tommy's set strict no fun rules. Dakota doesn't respect the rules, confirming Tommy's doubts about the kid, but Ainsley's a little upset about it. But this has all just been a slow roll into the real gut punch that happens at the end of episode 1 when Cooper's rig blows up in a catastrophic explosion, wiping out the crew. Cooper's hurled clear of the explosion, the lone survivor, stumbling, dazed, and calling for help. Tommy gets the call about what happened and barrels over, slams a valve shut to contain the fire, and mangles his finger in the process. Later, self-amputating it at the hospital with his pocket knife, tough guy style. Boss Monty spars with Tommy over cutting corners on safety, viewing the patch as a divide between starry-eyed dreamers and washed-up losers. Monty asserts authority, but okays payouts for the crew's next of kin. Tommy breaks the bad news to the families of Cooper's crew, offering $250,000 settlements to the widows in attempt to avoid lawsuits. Enter Rebecca, the no-BS lawyer from HQ, swooping in to handle the liability nightmare from the plane theft and blowout. Rebecca grills Tommy about the plane and the blowout, leading Tommy to think she was sent here to shift blame to him. Tommy picks up Cooper from the hospital and philosophizes about the patch's harsh lessons, but Cooper insists on proving himself, aspiring to run his own company one day. Bandaged and bullheaded, he demands back in to learn the ropes fully, despite Tommy's warnings. Tommy gives in and says he'll find him a crew. Ex-wife Angela arrives in Midland to check on Cooper. Tommy, with things to do, drops Angela and Ainsley at Monty's Country Club. More on that later. Meanwhile, Cooper faces backlash from the dead crew's relatives, but fights his way onto Boss's team. Turns out the attackers are his new co-workers, Manuel and Antonio. This really is the Wild West. Later, at one of the crewmen's wake, Cooper bonds with Ariana, Elvo's widow, over grief and spicy food that burns his mouth. She leans on him, sparking a connection. Now back to Rebecca. She heads out with Tommy to tour the crash site. While they're debating clean energy myths, she runs into a rattler snake. Tommy kills it, saving her from the bite, earning her respect. Back at the country club, Angela and Ainsley plot a provocative photo to make Ainsley's ex jealous. They're having fun and guzzling margaritas until Tommy returns and playfully dunks Angela in the pool. Now, with Angela and Ainsley bunking in Midland, as well as Cooper and Tommy's other two roommates, the house turns into a family circus. Angela teases Tommy at home, and since beds are scarce, she bunks with him, but no hanky-panky yet. The next morning, Tommy and Nate depose over the plane theft, but Rebecca dominates the deposition, flipping blame on the tanker's unauthorized road use, pushing an 8-figure settlement. Afterwards, at the Patch Cafe, she and Tommy flirt over drinks until Angela and Ainsley interrupt, dragging them to an awkward family dinner at the Patch. Meanwhile, Cooper's new crew hits a snag when Antonio's arm gets mangled in machinery, and Cooper jumps in to help. Back to the awkward family dinner, Angela shares boom or bust stories about her marriage to Tommy, revealing his old lies about Mexico trips during crashes. stirring up jealousy and some deep revelations. Tommy and Angela hash it out as she reveals that she's been planning to leave her husband, pushing them to decide on a full reunion. The next day, Tommy praises Cooper's work at the rig after an all-night shift, but warns of the industry's sting on second chances. Then Cooper receives a call from Ariana requesting a secret meeting. Uh-oh, trouble ahead. Cooper meets up with Ariana and helps her with paperwork and chores like mowing the lawn. But her brother-in-law, Manuel, spots Cooper. More on that later. Tommy's out inspecting aging wells with Dale when cartel boss Jamez rolls up, demanding compensation for the lost plane and drugs. Jamez confronts Tommy, guns in their belts, but Tommy talks him down with promises of coexistence. After the cartel scare, workers strike, fearing for their lives, halting ops until Tommy promises payoffs. Money talks, right? And the problems keep piling up as Tommy heads to another work site where a pile of pipes collapse on a rig, crushing a worker dead. Angela witnesses the horror, her face splattered in blood, underscoring the patch's brutality. Later that night, Manuel and his thugs jump Cooper, beating him senseless over the supposed disrespect. This lands Cooper in the ER. He's battered, but I'm not sure he's broken yet. Ariana sneaks into Cooper's hospital room, racked with guilt over the beatdown, further strengthening their bond. Meanwhile, Rebecca pressures the widows of the deceased crew to sign those lowball settlements mentioned earlier. But Ariana's hesitating on the $250,000 payout. More on that later. Angela heads to her husband Victor's huge mansion, where she thinks she's going to break it off with him. But he's sprung a lawyer ambush. Annulment papers ready. No alimony. But she signs without hesitation, walking away free. Later that night, Tommy rallies Boss and Dale for vengeance. They storm Manuel's trailer, drag him out, and deliver a savage thrashing, leaving him hogtied for the cops after Boss squeezes a confession from Antonio. Tommy threatens Manuel with jail and blacklisting, ensuring he's done in the patch. The next morning, Cooper discharges from the hospital with Ariana by his side, brushing off Tommy to ride with her instead. Angela coaches Ainsley on self-worth at the gym, and Ainsley tags along to her senior center gig. Angela decides the old folks need a little fun, so of course, it's Cards Against Humanity and booze. Meanwhile, Monty greenlights a risky $300 million deal on the cartel's land, regardless of the current cartel perils. Jamez ambushes Tommy at a rig, but Tommy's armed this time, along with the crew, and they hold the line, forcing a standoff. Later, Ainsley crashes her first Midland party, locking eyes with local quarterback Ryder. They hit it off fast, but Tommy catches them in the back of Ryder's truck and doesn't react well. Next day kicks off with Rebecca bullying Ariana with lawsuit threats if she doesn't sign the settlement. Cooper steps in to help, only to find out Rebecca has been looking for him with questions about the explosion. Rebecca corners Cooper alone at Ariana's, grilling him on the blowout and pinning blame on him via his hookup with her, warning she'll destroy his credibility if Ariana sues. Cooper calls her bluff, demanding $1 million per widow or no deal. Monty, fuming, okays it over the phone, yelling to fire that lying, backstabbing son of a b***. But Cooper hears and yells, "I quit." Later, he tells Ariana he's learned all M-Tex could teach him in 2 days and vowing his own company will run clean. Ariana grapples with guilt and grief, but admits it's too soon, yet it feels right with Cooper. After okaying the $1 million settlements, Monty meets with the governor over lunch, offering 75 acres for National Guard trading on the patch in attempts to deter cartels. All right before clutching his chest, having his 5th heart attack. Later, Tommy threatens Rebecca off Cooper, warning it's her ego talking and she doesn't want to mess with his family. Early the next morning, the National Guard accidentally blow up the cartel smugglers during drills, escalating everything. Uh-oh. The colonel freaks out over his team accidentally blowing up cartel smugglers during chopper drills, insisting on reporting it. But Tommy talks him down. Let the cartel clean up their own mess. Tommy calls cartel underboss Jamez, who's fuming over lost men and product. But Tommy points out it was an accident and offers the site for cleanup. Jamez demands a meet. Tommy visits Monty post-bypass, where Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones cameos with advice over family business. I didn't know Jerry Jones could act. Did you? Monty surprisingly promotes Tommy to vice president of operations with a fat raise, but also hires Rebecca as vice president of exploration, forcing them to team up despite Tommy's protests. Inspired, Tommy calls Angela and Ainsley to tell them, "I love you," learning they're off at a strip club with seniors. Angela keeps taking it up a notch with those seniors. Cooper woos Ariana with big dreams of his own company, a dream house, and riches. Meanwhile, Nate gripes to Tommy about Rebecca handling leases now. Later that night, while Angela preps dinner, Ainsley tries to convince Ryder to strip for the seniors because there was no males at the strip club they went to, and the lady seniors would like one. Later that night at dinner, Tommy and Angela bicker a bit, but reconcile. The next morning, Cooper nails his first lease with a stubborn old-timer, using honesty and grit. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Monty's EKG suddenly spikes. He hits his call button furiously, but no one comes, leaving him gasping. Tommy gets a call from Monty's wife, Cammy. She's shaken and scared. Tommy, a bit shaken himself, goes out to his backyard to get a little bit of air. He's staring at a wolf right as his neighbor shoots it dead, leaving Tommy gazing at the corpse in stunned silence. Monty's aneurysm demands a transplant, but docs stabilize him while his family grieves at bedside. But it turns out he flatlines mid-surgery, leaving Tommy in charge of everything. Cammy really pushes to continue with the risky farm-out deal to honor Monty's vision, despite Tommy's safe play preference. Tommy rallies Rebecca, Nate, and Dale for the pitch, defending oil's necessity, saying, "Our great-grandparents built a world that runs on this shit. Until it runs out or something else, we gotta feed it." Cooper continues to hustle oil leases all day, impressing landowners with fair terms. Back to Angela and Ainsley, where they're at the strip club with the seniors. They've got booze and dancing, and Ryder actually strips down to his jock for the ladies, earning a reward from Ainsley later. But it couldn't stay happy for too long as the cartel abducts Tommy next, and Jemez forces him to watch a well explode as warning. Tommy stays cool, noting it hurts the cartel too by drawing heat. But Jemez doesn't care as he tortures him brutally, with nails in his thighs, hammer smashes, and a gasoline douse. Tommy's life flashes before his eyes. But all of a sudden, Galino crashes in, executing Jemez and the crew for betrayal, saving Tommy and proposing partnership. As Galino escorts Tommy out, he says, "We must coexist. Who says we can't be friends?" Tommy refuses to go to the hospital, limping home with Dale's help, all while warning a coyote in the yard, "You better run. They kill coyotes around here." And that's where Landman Season 1 comes to an end. Season 2, we pick up right after Monty's fatal heart attack. Cammy's still shattered but determined as she storms into an executive luncheon to assert her iron grip on MTEX, warning she'll go ruthless while shareholders bombard Tommy with questions and concerns over Cammy's ability to handle the company. Over in the patch, Cooper's betting big on his independent hustle, striking oil on his first well, a staggering 500 barrels a day for a $10 million yearly jackpot. He calls Tommy to tell him the good news, but he's busy and says they'll talk at dinner. Ainsley's eyeing a spot on the TCU cheer squad, leading to a hilarious interview with a university admissions counselor. She gets accepted, prompting Angela to look for a house in Fort Worth. But the real brutal twist comes when Tommy's mom, Dorothy, slips away in her assisted living facility, and his estranged father, TL, that gravel-voiced icon, Sam Elliott, gets the news while gazing at a fading sunset. Tommy gets the news as well and realizes a tense reunion with his father is on the horizon. Cooper's on fire with his other 5 wells erupting with oil, bringing the grand total to 7,000 barrels a day. But the windfall terrifies Ariana, who can't handle the pressure of Cooper's dangerous job and asks him to pack his bags in a heartbreaking breakup that leaves the kid devastated. Cooper's overwhelmed as well and seeks advice from his dad. He never got a chance to talk to him at that family dinner. They talk about Cooper's oil and relationship issues on the way to see TJ about the funeral. On the way home, Tommy explains how bad his father was and apologizes for his own failures as a father. Cooper says, "I love you, Dad. You did your best, and your best is good enough for me," choking Tommy up a bit. Back at MTEX, a crushing $420 million lawsuit is filed over a botched hurricane rig settlement Monty never fixed. Rebecca charges in to broker a high-stakes drill to settle deal that could save or doom the company. Cammy also stumbles onto proof of Monty's financial sleight of hand, foreshadowing even bigger headaches down the line. Back in Midland, a lethal hydrogen sulfide leak from an old pump jack wipes out a group of hunters and sends Dale and Boss's crewmates rushing to the hospital, exposing more of the Patch's deadly hidden threats. Ariana gets a job at the Patch Cafe and ends up throwing a drink in a customer's face on her first day. Tommy investigates Sonrisa, the company that's bankrolling Cooper's drills, and uncovers their ties to the Galeno cartel, souring Cooper's newfound success. Tommy corners Galeno, who confesses to debt-trapping Cooper but dangles a sketchy partnership as bait. Over at MTEX, Cammy, Rebecca, and Nate unearth maxed credit lines and phantom revenue siphoned into a shadowy C-Corp, igniting IRS audit panic, leading them to grill Monty's lawyer, Alan, for answers. After that, Tommy and Cammy have an accidental meetup with Galeno and his wife, Bella, where he tempts Cammy with investment money. Later that night, Cammy crumbles alone, fixated on Monty's photo, buried under the mess he's dumped on her lap. Cammy goes to Monty's grave for a raw vent session, then turns to Galeno for a bailout loan on the rig fiasco. And he agrees to invest. On the way to fix another legal mess, Rebecca crosses paths with geologist Charlie on a rocky flight, bonds over her flying jitters with a few drinks, and winds up in his bed. The Norris family converges at Dorothy's funeral. Cooper and Ariana patch things up and she joins the somber trip. TL reminisces about brighter days with Dorothy, but Tommy unleashes the ugly truth of abuse, spilling how he bolted at 14 with a busted nose from his mom's frantic kick while he struggled to save her from drowning in the bathtub. TL owns up to being too weak to escape the poison himself. Later, Tommy quietly tells Ainsley about his baby sister lost to SIDS, the tragedy that shattered their mom and ignited her alcoholism. Angela floats the idea of inviting TL to bunk at their Midland house. At first, Tommy's not happy about it, but he does end up going to get TL and brings him home. TL eases into the household mix, adding his salty edge to the daily grind. Tommy's still not comfortable with Cooper's loan from Galeno, so he pitches buying out the leases and covering costs if the kid jumps ship to MTEX. Cooper agrees. Tommy circles back to Galeno, who smirks about Cammy coming to him for her rig bailout. The insurance company drops a hammer, demanding a well in 45 days or brace for full court litigation and potential criminal charges. Lawyer Allen unleashes the shocker of $800 million stashed in tax-dodging funds, floating bankruptcy as an option to get it unlocked. Tommy urges Cammy to go the bankruptcy route and levels with her about Galeno's cartel underbelly. She hides behind plausible deniability and pushes him to take the loan from Galeno. Over in Midland, Ariana confides her wedding dreams to Elvo's grandma, Isabel, who asks to meet with Cooper and ends up giving her blessing to him. Angela hands over her old engagement ring to Cooper, then prods Tommy for a new one for her. In Fort Worth, Tommy, Cammy, and Galeno ink the loan at the Will Rogers Memorial Center. Galeno pulls Tommy aside with a stark warning about the need to win Cammy's trust, or she just might get rid of him. Meanwhile, TL, who had decided to spend the day with Tommy, gets into a fight with an old coworker who trash-talked his late wife, nearly getting arrested himself in the dust-up. Rebecca reconnects with Charlie on the rig project, fanning their initial sparks back to life. Charlie hits Rebecca with the grim 10% odds of striking gas on the new offshore well. Nate catches wind of Rebecca's fling with subordinate Charlie and says he has to report it. Rebecca spills to Tommy, who shrugs it off and says no big deal, he'll take care of it. Dale, Russ, and BR fire up a backyard bash for Boss's 20-year MTEX milestone, slapping a Rolex on his wrist as he eyes retirement. TL schools Tommy on life's perks and pitfalls, pointing out he has everything that's important already. Cooper drops to one knee and asks Ariana to marry him, swearing forever will be over before we know it, so we better not waste a second. Later at the house, TL takes a nasty fall in the pool and is unable to get out on his own. Tommy knows that his father will not take direction from a physical therapist, so he thinks outside the box and he hires stripper Cheyenne as TL's physical therapist. She provides flirty water exercise sessions that are very effective against his stove-up eggs, bringing TL back from extreme depression. Tommy assigns Cooper as project manager for his 6 wells, teaming him with Dale, Boss, King, and BR. Back at MTEX, Tommy, Rebecca, and Nate press Cammy to litigate, but she bulldozes through caution and orders Charlie to drill for the massive upside. Tommy leaks the long odds to Galito, hoping to spook him, but Galito flips it, revealing that his royalty setup cashes in either way and puts MTEX in the crosshairs. Charlie and Rebecca butt heads after the dust settles. She makes it personal and he ends their budding relationship. But they do end up smoothing things over before he ships out on his 6-month rig haul. Over at TCU, Angela chokes back tears, dropping Ainsley at cheer camp, where a clash with non-binary roommate Pagan sends her storming admissions like a mama bear with a taste for blood. Cammy, Tommy, Rebecca, Nate, and Dale link up with Galino and Bella in Louisiana for the rig launch blowout. Amid the cheers, Cammy nonchalantly fires Tommy on the spot for his risk-adverse tendencies. The story takes a dark turn when Ariana faces a vicious attack from a spurned customer at the patch. Luckily, Cooper arrives just in time and charges in to save her. But in his rage, he continues punching the attacker well after he was knocked unconscious. Ariana, battered and bruised, collects herself and heads to the station to report the assault. While Cooper waits for her at the station, he's pulled into an interrogation. Turns out the attacker passed in the hospital from a heart attack. Ariana frantically calls Rebecca and she rips the officers a new one, threatening to take down the entire precinct. Nate resigns from MTEX right after rejecting Cammy's offer to promote him to president. Ainsley stands up for Pagan at cheer camp and they both find common ground. Tommy, reinvigorated from his firing, passes on a Chevron VP job and seals a loan from Galito to fuel Cooper's plays, taking the shady Sonrisa deal despite the cartel ties. Tommy rounds up the entire crew for a rousing toast, unveiling CTT Oil Exploration and Cattle, LLC, with Cooper at the helm as president, Tommy as executive vice president, and 25% profits split equally amongst the entire team. They now have their own oil company. Later that night, Tommy looks into the sunset and claims, "Today is mine," channeling defiant hope against the encroaching shadows. And that's where Landman Season 2 comes to an end. If you like this recap, please hit that like button and subscribe for more recaps.